So, welcome everybody to the Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship October presentation of our speaker tonight is Mark Nelson. We're so glad you're here. Mark's topic tonight is on psychometry. So, Mark comes to us. Mark believes that everything that we touch has been influenced by our energy field and thus has the ability to reveal much about us. Psychometry is a form of extrasensory perception that's characterized by the ability to give an accurate knowledge of an object's history by touching it. It suggests that the object has an energy field that transfers knowledge regarding its history. And I'm going to take just a moment, if we could, and we're going to do like a 3-breath kind of focus, kind of release, then focus. If we could just take a breath in and do a cleansing release breath outward. Then as we keep our eyes closed, we'll draw in the energy of love and light into our hearts and into our minds to bring focus to this moment. And exhale again anything that is not serving us for this moment in time. And on our last breath in, bring in more love and light and bring our focus to our speaker. And exhale with relaxation. Thank you for joining me with that, and welcome back. And at this point, I am going to hand the microphone over to Mark. Mark, we welcome you. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. This is all right. Enough of that. And you're going to say you wanted to know, did anyone have a really good week? Well, I'm having a really good moment. This is really fun. By the way, so again, as a point of introduction, I'm Mark Christopher Nelson. I throw in Christopher because one day I realized, there are more Mark Nelsons floating around than you could possibly imagine. You can throw a rock out the window and hit some guy named Mark Nelson. It's about the same as John Jones. So Mark Christopher Nelson, I am a psychic medium. And tonight we're going to explore psychometry. And I'm going to talk about how it expanded my life view of like the universe that we live in and work in. And I also am going to talk about ways that you can learn to develop this skill as well. It's a form of divination, and it's been kind of a wonderful thing for me. I also wanted to thank all of my friends at the Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship. You guys have been welcoming and fun and allowed me to speak, and I just feel really lucky to be here. But speaking of being here, you guys are probably wondering, how did I get here? Well, who is this guy? He's just this, anyway, so before I get into psychometry, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I discovered my psychic ability, how I learned to develop it, how I found myself using this ability in a lot of surprising places, how I came in to meet a guy named Kenny Kingston, who was Marilyn Monroe's personal psychic medium, and how he taught me how to get in touch with the ability to use psychometry. So, but let me back up to truck a little bit further. Like many psychic mediums, not all, but many, they discovered their ability at a time of tragedy or challenge. Mine was definitely one of a terrible moment in my life. I was 11 years old. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. And at the time I was living in New Jersey, my dad said, I'm going to go to work and then I'm going to go into the city, meaning New York City, because his mother was sick. So he went in to visit her. And that night he never came home. The following morning, I heard the gravel in the driveway, and it turned out to be a policeman who came to tell us that my dad had been killed in a bar in New York, and that the details were very sketchy. We later learned that his car had broken down. He had gone into a unknown, beknownst to him, a mafia bar, where he got into a terrible fight and it was a very brutal murder. So I wasn't really equipped to deal with that at age 11. And so let's say a month after his funeral, it's October, he died just shy of his 34th birthday. So we're now October. The leaves are piling up in our little yard and my dad isn't around. So my mom's telling me, try to act like a normal kid, like everything's okay. Go out and rake some leaves. So I started to work in the yard and rake leaves. And then I felt this need to turn around. And when I did, I saw my father. He looked almost solid. I mean, I just saw Dad. That's what I saw. And I didn't know what to think of it, but he was smiling. There was maybe perhaps the slightest bit of a glow around him. And Dad told me, he smiled and said, I'm okay. I'm okay. And you will be too. And with that, he just kind of dematerialized. And it made my little mind go, is this what it feels like to lose your mind? Am I going crazy? I knew I was filled with grief, but I couldn't really put it together. And so I kept it to myself because everyone else around me is still crying all the time. So I just figured I'm not going to add to this. I was 11 years old and I figured out I'm not going to make everything a little bit worse and a little crazier than it was. Then I go to school and I'm at school and I look over out a window and I see my dad again. And I'm just like, uh-oh, this isn't a good trend. Things are trending badly, as they say. And I'm just, Dad, I don't know what to do with you, but please leave me alone. I see you, but I don't know how to contend with seeing my dad. So he smiled and he left. At that point, but what's interesting too is before Dad died, Dad made a point of waking up in the middle of the night. He's like a month before he died. And he tapped my mother on the shoulder and he says, if anything happens to me, George would be perfect for you. And it's like, what do you mean? And my mom was like, go back to bed. You're 33. You're fine. You're going to be fine. Well, about 5 weeks later, he was dead. And and turns out the George they were talking about was a guy we used to call Uncle George. So Uncle George, just by chance, heard about my dad's death because he was jumping off a subway in New York, crossed with a friend who told him what happened. He was heartbroken. Long story short on that, my mom, he came to visit because he would come to visit. It would be like an extended visit holiday when Uncle George would show up. Well, before too long, Uncle George became Uncle Dad. Now, Uncle Dad, I didn't know how to say it any other way because I was bound and determined. I've only got one dad. I've got one dad and I'm 11 and I know everything. So Dad was cool with calling him Uncle Dad for a while, but Dad had a little thing that he did on the side. He was a car salesman, a bartender, and a budding comedy writer. He met a woman named Joan Rivers working at a little bar in New York before she was Joan Rivers. He started to write for her. She introduced him ultimately as her star began to rise. She introduced him to Johnny Carson. So Johnny Carson said, hey, you're kind of funny. Come on out. I'll give you a month contract. So based on a month contract, my mom and dad moved all 6 kids from our little South Jersey out in the boonies to California. So there I discovered that I'd rather be out surfing in Malibu than doing a lot of other things. But along the way too, because of Dad's work, he was able to, I got to poke around the Tonight Show, and then he introduced me to the idea that, hey, I can write and act maybe. So I ended up being a sweat hog on Welcome Back, Kotter. I did that for 9 episodes, which was fun. You know, a funny thing is I got a chance to see John Travolta practicing moves for Saturday Night Fever. And I'm wondering, why is that guy doing all the disco moves? And out. So all of these things put together, I had a pretty interesting life. My dad, my stepdad, convinced me that I could write too. So I ended up having a pretty decent career. I was working in advertising. I got married. We had a little girl. We moved, had a house. And so one night after work, I'm stressed out and I'm thinking, I just need to get away and clear my head. So, but then as I'm walking along and I'm thinking, gosh, my dad would have loved to have met Barbara, my wife, met our daughter Katie, seen our new house. And that's when it got interesting. I heard another voice say, I have seen your I have. And so I thought, okay, so this is what the beginning of schizophrenia feels like. Yay. All right. But then I really was paying attention because it was a very clear voice. And then I asked Dad, I asked this voice, it's like, if you really are my dad, tell me something I don't know. I want proof. Otherwise, I'll just assume that this is a result of too much stress, too much craziness in my life. So he gave me what amounted to what almost sounded like a cryptic spy message. Your brother Glenn is surrounded by green ivy and white walls. And I just remembered it's such a random, odd thing. So, all right, I'll take that spy message back to headquarters, whatever that means. So I ended up taking this idea about Glenn. I called my mom and rather than telling my mother, yes, I'm hearing voices, I asked her, it's like, I said I had a dream about Glenn. And in the dream, Glenn was surrounded by green ivy and white walls. Does that mean anything? Excuse me. And she said, well, he just got a job at a place called the Green Ivy. That's so funny you would talk about that. Oh, and it's got white walls. Well, that's interesting too. All right. So I started to pay a lot more attention to these messages because I asked about my mom. I asked about other family members. And so I was getting messages that I said, Mom, had another dream. I wasn't quite ready to out myself as someone who sees dead people. So, or speaks to them or have them whisper to me when I'm taking a walk out with the dog, And so the other thing, this was all happening. And then I realized, I've got to tell my wife, Barbara, that I'm seeing things, hearing things. And so it probably went something along the lines of, hi, honey, how's your day? Did you pay the phone bill? Oh, and I'm talking to dead people. And it was just kind of, it's such a blessing that she just didn't force me to go to a doctor, take a drug. She was very open. In fact, she was the one that introduced me to Kenny Kingston, because we used to go to his spiritualists events that were in not far from where we lived out in the Los Angeles area. So I went to this event and I saw Kenny doing this thing. He was a very fun, interesting, entertaining man. And at the end of every event, he would say, okay, hold up your jewelry, hold up stuff. He would walk through the crowd, he'd grab a ring, or grab a watch, and they would start to do a riff on it, to hear it, to read it. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And he got some stuff off of me. I'm just, it's like it was almost like crowd control. He's got all of these people at him, and yet he handled it with grace and accuracy. So it made me think, okay, maybe there's something that I can do with that. All right. So after I told Barbara that I'm seeing dead people, mom still thinks I'm dreaming. And I said, I need to get a little more validation here. So I went to a local psychic bookstore. Said, hey, by the way, this is not how you really should do it, but I did it. It's like I walk into a psychic bookstore and said, I think I'm psychic. Now, oh, well, what makes you think? Well, I just do. And he said, well, try reading me. So I put myself in a place where I always meditate before readings, and I do my little things that I do. I clear my head, try to be present. And so I'm looking at this woman, and all of a sudden I'm getting these images flashing of a young teenager who had been in a really bad fight. And it was like not a fair fight. There was like 5 or 6 guys were beating him up. And as a result, he was unable to go to school. He was beat up. He was injured, and his father was taken care of. His grandfather had come to help him convalesce. And I told her this, and she said, that's pretty good. Do you want a job? And I was like, yeah. And so, so much for like easing your way into this. I just kind of thought I could do it. I went in, she said, you can do it. And so I had to figure out, what is a process? What do I need? What don't I need? How do I keep from getting my process in the way of actually just doing this work that comes to me? And so I figured that out. People started to come to me, and then they started to come to me more and more often. And then it became inconvenient to go to the store all the time because I'm still working as a writer during the day. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to just start telling people that they can get me at home. And then I had to realize, okay, Barbara, do you mind if all of these people start coming to the house? And it's like, oh, a whole line of new house guests, people, so they're strangers, you don't know them. That's kind of the idea. So I don't know them. So, all right. And then it came up that, well, do you think you can do this through the phone? It's like, I don't know. I haven't tried the phone. I'm guessing it works. And so I tried it, and lo and behold, Spirit really doesn't care a lick about where your client is or where you are. It's about making connections. And so the same group of people, of friends, guides, family members on the other side that were guiding me helped me get used to the phone. And then they helped me get used to then other people coming in. And so I started to do this work, and then we decided it was time we needed to go back to move back to Los Angeles. So as we go back there, I get a chance. Someone says, "You're good on the phone. Do you want to try being at an event?" And then, okay. And so then it turns out it was reading on a platform. So I've never done platform reading. So do you do this? And so I'm telling everybody this is that the idea is, if you think you've got the ability, get out of your own way. Don't let all of your preconceptions about, I don't know, I haven't done this, I haven't done that. It's like I have this little trick I do where I basically now, if I'm faced with like something I haven't done before, I tell myself, Mark, go back to bed. Go, if I'm in a hotel, go to the bar, have a drink. I'll catch up with you later. Mark, go up to the room, watch some TV. You're bothering me now. And so that's been a little trick that seems to have helped. But I started to do platform reading. And so it was really wonderful. And again, it's about not thinking about what you can or cannot do or what you have permission to do. So at that point, then someone in the audience came up to me after a presentation and said, "Do you think that you could go into a house with history and perhaps see who's there?" And I said, "Again, I don't know. Let's find out." So everything there's just so there's a bit of randomness, but I really do think that my guides were doing their job. They were showing me that my preconceptions were nothing more than personally imposed roadblocks. And so for any of you wondering, can I do something? Does this work apply? Does my ability apply here? Does it apply there? I'm going to ask you to say, you know what, put it in Spirit's hands, just as you trust it when you're having a one-on-one with someone, or you're writing something down, journaling for the first time. Allow it to keep coming to you. Now, I am going to get to psychometry, so don't worry. Hang on. We'll get there, and I'll talk about that too. So I ended up going to a home where there was an event, and it turned out to be nothing terribly tragic. And there was just this family was having all of their kids were unwilling to sleep in their own bedrooms. So they all kept running into the parents' room all the time because they kept seeing this man walk through the walls of their house. Yeah, it's a common problem. So no, but it really isn't. But just the idea that they kept seeing him. And so they asked me who it was, and I got the name. This guy says he's Mr. Wilson. Who's Mr. Wilson? And they're like, oh, Mr. Wilson. We know Mr. Wilson. He used to be one of our neighbors. He was like the self-appointed one-man neighborhood watch. And his thing was to walk through every neighborhood, get to know all the kids, and they all got to know him. And when he passed, he decided, you know, it was a good gig, and I think I'm going to keep it going. So he did. He kept it going. And but I had to let the kids know that you have nothing to be afraid of. Mr. Wilson doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to harm you. He's basically there at kind of keeping an eye on things. So if you don't mind, he doesn't mind. And so that was just one example. But then that became an interesting thing. And then I had a chance to do, once I started to do that work, some TV shows started to find out who I was and what I did. And so they started calling, which was a wonderful experience. I had a chance to do a TV show for Fox TV, which amounted to, which I didn't know at the time, to kind of a psychic challenge where they put all of us, a whole group. You want to have a fun evening or a wild a meeting, go to a cattle call where there are 200 psychic mediums, or so they say. You'll see everything from turbans to people in costume to hysterical people. They're all there. So, but I ended up making it the cut to do the show. And then they put me through places and things that, again, I didn't know I could do. And so as you develop your ability, if there are people here who are trying to develop their ability, try it. So going back to the idea, and also to in my investigation, I kind of just talked about this briefly. I had a chance to go through Hollywood history. I went to a house that had, or a hotel that had Marilyn Monroe's ghost walking around. And so I was able to talk about Marilyn Monroe, which was really wild. It's just like I said, there's this blonde woman dancing around here. And the head of security said, that used to be her bungalow. That's where she stayed. So you're seeing her dancing around in front of her place. That's pretty interesting. Then I went to another friend said, we think that, well, the Sharon Tate murders happened right around here. Can you go up and do that? And so again, if you wonder if spirit's going to work with you and you're open to it and you want to be available, the answer is yes. I was supposed to go on a show where I was going to give an impression as to whether Sharon Tate's spirit was in this place. Well, again, I had started a new writing job. The job happened to be across the street from Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California. So a friend of mine just met him. Said, hey, you want to go for a walk? Where? The cemetery. It's like, you want to walk in the cemetery? Really? Okay. So we went for a walk in a cemetery, and then I had to say, you know what? I got to get back. I've got to. And then I'm taping something tonight related to the Sharon Tate murders. And he goes, she's buried right there. And so as it turns out, Sharon Tate had guided me, got me to right at the foot of her grave. I mean, she was like 10 feet away. So I realized, okay, this is important all of a sudden. There's no way I could have orchestrated this. Sharon Tate pulled me in. Sharon Tate wanted me to be there. And so that night we got some pretty interesting messages from Sharon Tate. She didn't want to be remembered for the last moments of her life. She said, we are beautiful again, which I found to be important. She gave me the name of her son. Another one of the victims, which we got on tape, was really interesting. I hear a guy, one of the victims was Jay Sebring, who was an up-and-coming hairstylist to the stars. He did everyone's hair in Hollywood, who was anybody. Steve McQueen, certainly Sharon Tate, other people. And then as I'm walking through, I hear him say, I had big plans. And so I tell the camera, he says, I had big plans. And so when they played it back, they heard me say I had big plans. Then they hear this other voice saying, I had big plans. So they're going, how did that happen? So, well, I think I heard him, or we both said it at the same time. I can't really tell you. So that happened. And a weird one, this guy gave me a little piece of black leather, like 1 inch by 1 inch, little piece of like black leather. So what do you get off of this? And we're back in psychometry land, guys. So I take this little piece of leather and I see that there's like a vintage looking blonde bombshell. It wasn't Marilyn Monroe. It was someone with a beautiful curvaceous woman. But what was interesting is that she was doing her makeup in like a rear view mirror. You know, like we've all seen ladies doing their makeup in traffic. That's been since there were women doing their eye makeup on buckboard carriages. They probably hold a little mirror and say, okay, how do I look? So, but it turned out that little piece of black leather came from the car that Jane Mansfield was killed in. And so it's like, wow, okay, well, she is, and to me, what that speaks to is that the things that we associate with, things that we touch, the things that we feel, that are associated with that, if we touch them, we feel them, we leave a little bit of ourself on those pieces. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how that could possibly occur. Now, back to the idea of psychometry. See, I got back here. The term psychometry actually comes from the Greek word, which means psych, and also to metron, which means measure. So, I mean soul and then measure. So it's a measure of someone's soul. That's one way to interpret what psychometry means. It's also been called clairtangency, which is the ability to read objects through touch. So, I mean, some people can hear something, smell something, feel something. They're empaths that absorb energy from other people. I think that there's some of that happening with many people, but I think it also applies to my work with psychometry. Now, there's a number of scientific thoughts to how could psychometry be possible. I mean, how does it work? How could it possibly be? So a friend of mine, a late friend and an author, Rosemary Ellen Guiley wrote, psychics have the information conveyed to them through vibrations in objects. Oh, let me repeat it. I have to read some of this if you'll forgive me. It's too much to commit to memory. But psychics say the information is conveyed to them through vibrations imbued into the object by emotions and actions in the past. So to me, it supports the idea, say with the leather from Jane Mansfield's car. It was a very emotional, powerful moment, and it seemed to imprint some of a memory of her in this little piece of leather. Author Michael Talbot wrote that all objects, even buildings and places, record the energy of events and the people around them. So, and also too, if an object is personal and is carried, it carries signature vibrations with it. This to me is also why I think I'm able to go into a place that has quote unquote history. And also too, this applies to everyone here tonight. If you go into a place and it can be a very positive feeling, it can be a feeling that gives you a sense of apprehension, joy, anticipation. It's because the place has energy imprinted on it. You go to a sports event, there's going to be a lot of upbeat energy. If you go to a place where your mom always went in, your mom's kitchen, even if mom's not there, you're going to feel her presence. And I think that that's a bit of what we experience. So I love being able to say this. You're not crazy when you think you're feeling something in a place. You just haven't really expressed it or identified it enough, or I would say honor it. A lot of times when we start to become aware of our abilities, we don't really take the time to honor them by saying, okay, that's something that feels different. And I like to use the word honor what you're hearing, honor what you may be feeling, and what that means too in a more practical, down to earth way. If you get a feeling like you're in the kitchen with mom's kitchen, good example, and you feel her there, write it down, tell someone, try to get a way to validate it, because what's really nice about when you start to get these validations is that you're going to realize that moment felt different. It wasn't just like an ordinary day. How is it different? If you don't take the time to honor it by recognizing it, looking at it, celebrating it to a small degree, you may miss it. The objective, I think, for most of us that are trying to learn about their ability is to learn to recognize that it's natural, it's real. It's not like that voice in my head isn't always quite the same as the one I use when I'm asking someone for I need to get some soap powder, or I want to, how do I do this? How do I do that? It's going to feel different. And the more that we become conscious of that, the better. Okay. In his Michael Talbot's book, he says that psychometric abilities also suggest that the past is not lost, but merely exists in another form accessible to people with this human perception. So that also is interesting to me. It's almost like, is it an echo? To use another vernacular, we go to a place where a battle took place, a historic event, do you feel something, hear something? Well, it can be something that, because of your particular abilities, you hear it. Dogs can hear certain things in a whistle. I can't. But if you go to, again, a historic location where something of a great scale took place, and you can get a sense of the feelings of people associated with it, that's real. Pay attention to what you do with that, because it can start to help you build. Excuse me. Think of it, it's almost like muscle memory, only with your psychic ability. It's like you get used to practicing. It's practice. I also think that there's no replacement for mileage. Keep doing this again and again. That mileage matters. Now, excuse me, pardon me. So I love the idea that all events, instead of fading into oblivion, can remain recorded in some way that we can access at a later time. So when I'm using my ability of clairtendency, I can do that, and the name of it is psychometry. It allows me to tap into some of these records that are not really clear and in front of us. Gosh, pardon me, guys, fighting a chest cold. I don't mean to bark in your ears. So another thing that way I've looked at it too, is that I think there's a connection between psychometry and auras. If you think about what are auras, I mean, if you've seen aura photography, you've seen that people have glows. The colors mean different things. The colors, this energy field, and I believe we are all energy. I think that's been fairly established through quantum mechanics, that this glowing field that is around you, that is around me, if someone was doing this around you, that is an energy from your aura, which is, to me, your aura is basically all of our ideas, our life memories, our choices. Our energy is what changes the color, which affects all of these different things that we can see in the imagery. Well, my aura is going to imprint on my wedding band. It's going to imprint on a watch I wear, all of these things. And it's really kind of a wonderful and an exciting thing if you think about it. So take mind. Here's the downside, or the other side of this, is if you go into an antique store, if you go into a secondhand place, and this just happened to me. It's like I went in to a secondhand store. I was looking for, I'm looking for kind of Halloween things to wear. And so I went in, I didn't want to spend a fortune. I didn't want to have to buy something brand new, but I walk into this place and I start to smell things that, I mean, everything was clean. Everything was washed. I started to get like, it's almost like being forced into if you ever go in a subway and it's overly crowded, there are people's energy right on you. It's not the most pleasant feeling in the world for me. So if you get little hits like that, if you feel a little bit uncomfortable, again, in like antique shops where it's like, I know it's a lovely piece, but all I can think of is the people that owned it, and I'm feeling it, and I don't really want to be associated with it. So that may be another, maybe we'll call it a little bit of an indicator that what you're doing, what you have going on, could be something called psychometry, that ability. Now, the other thing is that, so what do you call this energy? This stuff that seems to permeate things we own, we wear, we carry, we do, all of that. I call it psychic DNA. It's this little bit of something we all leave behind. And it's not bad. It's just, it's like, what do you call that interesting energy that dad left on his watch, his car keys, that your grandma knitting needles, her TV, her whatever. I mean, whatever. I mean, to be honest, I don't really like electronics. People will ask me, "Hey, hold my phone." It's like there's so many other different things going on with the phone. I don't think it's the best way to start. Okay, so in fact, as you start to wonder, okay, what would be a really helpful thing to focus on? What would be a useful thing to practice with, to do something with? I would say it would be again a small piece of jewelry. I'll take eyeglasses. People have old eyeglasses. They want to let me hold it. Any number. I've actually worked with people will just sign something on their business card and hand it to me, just because it has their energy from writing. So I thought that that was a pretty interesting place to begin. So, gosh, this is not good. Anyway, so the idea is that anytime you are interacting with something, your aura is imprinting on it. So it's a really wonderful way to also to it'll affirm that I'm getting something that I can use, develop. And so many of us are trying to, I mean, a lot of people who are learning about their own psychic ability, they might say, I'm just going to, I'll start out with cards. And cards, they're a great tool. I'm going to use divining rods. I'm going to try scrying. I'm going to use any and all of these different tools that are available to us. But I've got to think that a good practice way to do this is, excuse me, if you have a friend of a friend, there's a perfect setup. Because if you read your significant other's jewelry, you're going to be sitting there going, I know too much. This is too easy. This is too close. And so I was telling someone today, it's easier to read for someone I don't really know, as opposed to my wife or myself or a close friend. I have my own preconceptions I have to kind of wade through and separate in order to be able to hear what they're saying, to obtain this information, this message. So also too, like with all of your abilities, if say someone on the other side is trying to come through to you and you're holding something of theirs, this is not a one-way communication. I think of psychometry also as a practice of taking an object and using it as something of a tuning fork, a focal point. It allows me to hear one person more clearly, even if they're not in front of me. Allows me to gain something, allows me to say, okay, that's their energy. That's what I'm feeling. This is what makes sense. And also too, as a writer, I tend to be more verbal. I also see things pretty clearly. So as you work with psychometry, it doesn't mean that how I do psychometry can end up being the way that you do psychometry. You might find that the experience, again, spirit will use whatever you bring to the table. If you bring a sense of musicality, spirit may try to grab your attention with something of a musical nature, a memory associated with music. I know music can be very evocative and bringing you to a place, to an idea, to a feeling. It could be if you paint, the idea that I'm going to see more color, or I may see whatever it is that you love, whatever this other person had, they bring it to me. I can hear that. And so, and show it. And so when I'm doing psychometry, sometimes I see little movies. Sometimes I get a feeling. Sometimes I hear a voice. I get a phrase. I get any and all of these things. And they're all appropriate and helpful, because there isn't just one person I'm reading for. There's whoever's associated with it is doing their part. So I would encourage everybody to think of psychometry in those terms. The other thing too is that what I love is you just never know what you're going to get sometimes. I did an event where someone put a little, it was like when I was just getting started doing this, it was a Jack in the Box, like a little sailor doll, maybe like this tall. Looked like it was like right out of the 1920s or something like that. Dressed in a little sailor suit, and it looked like Jack from a Cracker Jacks box. So I picked up this little doll, And the first thing as I hear, I'm surrounded by love. Surrounded by love? That's kind of weird. I'm surrounded by love. And so I hold up this doll and say, he says he's surrounded by love. And about 5 different women in the audience start to laugh hysterically. You're like, okay, I need some, what's so funny? I don't know what's so funny. And so the leader of the pack said, we all took turns putting that doll down our cleavage so that we could take pictures with him. We were using him as a prop, and he had probably been down the shirt of like 6 or 7 women before we brought him up to you. It's like, all right, well, he was surrounded by love. Okay, that's as good as I'm going to get. So that was funny. And then I've heard health issues. I've heard people traveling, all these other different things. I don't know what it's going to mean sometimes, but it can be really also too, if you're doing a large event, or if you're just doing something for let's say a good friend, someone that you want to learn more about, or they want to learn more about something. If you hold it, the thing again, I'm going to use the V word, validation. It's wonderful to get things, but if you don't have any way of determining, okay, I'm in the ballpark, I'm not in the ballpark, I'm making sense, and then to have that helps you identify what you're hearing. And so also to the point of all of this, that's a great question. People ask me, so what is, do you think that is everything preset? Do we have free will? Is this all something, I mean, what if everything is destiny, what's the point of going to a psychic medium? I mean, if I can't change the course of my life, I can't do something with the information you give me, is it really useful to speak to you, to allow you to hold something that I own, that might reveal something about me? And so my message is that basically, if I'm holding something and I'm hearing something and you may not like it, the objective is to say, if all things remain the same, this is a likely outcome. If you're having a health issue and you're not willing to make some adjustments, or to be treated right away, or to do something other than what you've been doing, this is a very likely outcome. That kind of same thought process can apply to a relationship, work, finances, whatever it would be. So I'd like to think that if we hold something that someone has worn, has carried with them, has touched them, that we can get something that they'll either tell us it's me, I'm here, and that, or this is what would be useful for you. This was something that would be useful for me. That's something that you can do through the touch of psychometry. Again, and it's one of the clairs, but clairtangency was one that I haven't heard of. So I'm pretty fortunate today to have a chance to read a few objects. So I'm going to hold them, and then I want to give everyone, if anyone has questions that they would like to talk to me about, they want to talk about developing their own ability. If there's something like that, I'm happy to answer those questions. Okay, so I'm going to start with, this is a beautiful piece. It's a little brooch. I don't know if you can see it, and it's a lovely piece. Now, the first thing I'm getting about this, I actually wrote down notes on this. I felt like I saw someone whoever owned this, they jump up. I see a woman with whiter hair. I see she jumps up. It's as if she had like either trouble getting up very easily, but she jumps out of her chair, sits down. I feel like that there is a bit of a mobility issue for her. She wants to tell me that I feel like that the woman, I believe this is Eileen's. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I'm feeling like, or this came from Eileen. I hear I'm not sure if this past or present, I'm hearing that this feels like, I want to keep hearing mom. I don't know if mom is associated with this or not. I feel like that there was This feels like that there was a passing connected to it. I'm not the first person to like. Feels like that there was another person who owned this prior to the woman who had it last. It feels like that. I feel like that there was a cancer associated with this. I'm not sure if this is making sense. I don't know, Eileen, if this is something that you could speak to or would want to speak to.
Yeah, so mom, not my mom though.
I'm hearing mom associated
yeah.
with this.
The mobility issues for sure. I don't know the ownership of it.
Okay, well, what I see is a lady that has like, it was kind of a funny thing. She jumps up, she looks to be on the shorter side. It's like she has trouble getting up. She says, I'm up, I'm down. Whoever owned this before, I feel like that there was a cancer associated with this. I feel like too, but there was cancer, but ultimately there was I'm not trying to cover all of the illness bases, but I got cancer. I got that a heart problem that even, you know, people can be treated for cancer and have a heart related topic connected to this. Oh, pardon me. No, the other thing I got with this is that earlier in life, I don't know if you know about the ownership. I see a woman who's like drawing on a chalkboard. This makes me think that either a teacher was associated with this, someone teaching up in front of like a group, drawing, teaching, drawing. It also feels like that there is a lot of artistic ability connected to this. It feels like that the woman who owned this was I'm dealing with, I mean, it was art. So I'm seeing teacher again. You don't know who if you don't know.
No, I know who the owner was. It's on Vincent's side of the family.
It's my mom's.
Ah,
Which is interesting because I don't know if she owned that originally or if it was passed down from her mom who did have cancer. And my mother was very creative. She didn't teach it though, other than to me, I guess. But creative, very artistic. And had mobility problems and was a short woman.
Okay, well, that's not bad for a little piece of metal. So what I would also say is that I feel like that she struggled against some of her physical infirmities. I feel like that I mean, this idea that she would stand up and try to stand up against it, stand up for it. The other thing, all right, this may be Vincent. I see her like making. All right, this is I don't. I feel like I'm seeing her swirling something in a pot. I mean, if she's, hey, I was raised in an Italian-ish neighborhood, everybody swirling, cooking. Very good at that. But there is just like always like over the pot making, I don't mean to make it just, she's showing me this. Okay.
No, that's what she did a lot of.
Sure. The other
with
thing
sauce, with gravy, with anything that, yes, she was always stirring it.
Did she have a problem with like veins in her leg? Was that an issue? Like, I don't know if there was.
Well, she did have leg problems. I don't recall. Do you recall, Eileen, if she had vein problem? I'm not sure if they have vein problems, Mark, but I know that they were leg issues.
So it's really interesting, Mark, because I think because I've had the pieces, right, that from both our parents, right? I think there might be a mix of energy. Right?
As Eileen does, yeah.
Because those pieces have been with me, but in the same drawer, right? So like my mom had cancer, right? And my mom definitely had vein issues, which is why I have vein issues, but you know.
I'm hearing like varicose or painful veins in lower legs.
Yes. So, and like I said, my mom had the cancer, but his mom had the mobility issues. So it's very interesting because it's like a combination of the two moms. And I'm thinking the pieces I sent you were both, you know.
Well, the one thing too is that, all right, did mom sing? Vince, was mom like a singing? Did she sing?
Yes, she did, and quite beautifully. And so did her mom.
Well, you both come by honestly because she looks like she likes to have fun. She's the life of the party. She's standing up. She's being musical.
That's definitely Eileen's mom for that. My mom did it on the sly and maybe one show, but Eileen's mom was very outgoing like that and did music all the time.
Okay, because I just feel like that she's wanting to be playful. She's wanting to do this. Who's all right? There's another Vince connected to you, right? You're not the first Vince?
No, I'm not the first Vince.
Okay. Other Vince feels like he's been gone 12 years, 15 years, something like that. Has it been
wow.
longer?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
What is it, 12 years, hon?
2011, so 12 years.
12 years, yes.
You're making me laugh and choke.
Okay.
Sorry, Mark.
Sorry.
That's
And
okay.
it's funny, Mark, because Vincent's father comes quite often.
Yeah. And funny. And I would say he had a lot of like, there was verve to him. There was like very forceful and not the first Vince. I like that. Excuse me. No one wants to hear me bark. I can't really help it. All right. What else is he showing me? All right. Did either one of your parents, like, would they do something like juggling, like just for playing, like throwing, circus juggling, just as a trick or something?
No, not mine.
No, but I would interpret that as my father-in-law, Vince's father, was definitely a clown. Like
yeah.
he,
Okay. I'll take that.
I'll take that. Sold.
Yeah.
Sold to
Yeah.
a very charitable nice
yeah, if I had to describe him, it was definitely,
He was a clown. He was always clowning around. You're right.
Okay, because I mean, it looks like it's playful. It does. So I'm getting this. I'm going to go to another piece, and then we can talk about other stuff, other things. Is there a woman's name that begins with like a K, Kate, K? I'm hearing. Whoop.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, she shows up. Again. I'm going to say, was there beautiful artwork associated with this lady? I feel like that there's an artistic side. I keep hearing, I'm coming back. I don't know if that means something in particular to coming back to visit. It makes me think that, all right, this woman passed, but I think that she comes to visit. I don't know if that makes sense for you. Also too, I'm hearing friend with this. I don't know if this is something that is in the family, but I'm hearing friend connected to you. I'm hearing, is it Kate, Catherine? I'm hearing.
No, so my daughter actually, our daughter actually wore that at her wedding, and she's still with us, and her name's Kimberly. So
okay. All right. Well, what else am I getting? I mean, Kimberly. I mean, I'm not getting any premonition that she's passing, but I love this. Right. If she, I already know this, but I'll say it. I heard the artistic. She was quite the singer. She is quite the. Yes. That is really an art. The other thing too is, all right. I'm going to go with the coming. I got to think that you guys live fairly close to each other.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, maybe that's the where I'm coming back. So, oh, what else? I'm hearing for her, if you want to let her know this, I feel like that she's putting in an offer on something and it might get rejected. Putting offers in, rejection. I don't think it's real estate, but there's this back and forth. I'm putting in an offer on something, it's getting kicked back. I'm putting in an offer. I'm supposed to tell her that if she's like trying to get another job, she's trying to do something related where she has to make an offer, put herself out there. I feel like that there's going to be a back and forth connected to her for this, where she's going to have to try multiple times to make this change in her life.
Better not be getting another job. She works with me.
Yeah, she says she doesn't like the boss. I don't know what that means. Didn't like the boss so much. No, kidding. No. But there's something about when she's it feels like a work or a purchase related thing that even if she's working with you, she's going to have to go back and forth,
Okay.
is bidding back and forth, back and forth. I'm supposed to tell her to keep trying, keep bidding, keep pushing this, and then she gets what it is that she's trying to achieve. It's just not, it's going to be almost like my Groundhog Day. So if she's doing something that is a fairly important part of her work right now, and it's a lot of back and forth, so tell her to be patient, be patient. Okay. Also, too, is there a reason why she would have like another? I don't mean, I'm not sure if there's another baby showing up, but I'm seeing like her standing there. She had like another child steps next to her. I don't know if she. I see two kids. Like one steps up, and there's two of them. So if she has two kids, that's easy. If she has one, it's either one other child steps into the picture or is there with her frequently. Does that make sense?
Yes, very much so.
I hope so.
Says grandpa, grandpa. So I see another child stepping into the picture, stepping into the life. Okay. So I like that. And it feels like that, again, her being diligent, being, and what's funny is it's like if she's standing alone, this other child does join the picture, does become part of their life. And I gotta tell you, I don't know if they've taught if it's just natural birth, but I'm getting if they decide that they want to try adoption or they want to try something a little bit different to bring this other child into their lives, it would work.
Okay.
All right. So it's a lovely thing. I'm also being told to ask her to pay attention to chiropractic health. I don't know if she's got a problem with her back, upper back. I'm feeling like I see a chiropractor, get to a chiropractor, neck is out, all out of joint, neck. Ask her about that. I don't know if that matters, makes
It
sense.
totally makes sense.
Because my neck hurts when I'm looking at her.
Mhm.
So, and that's a funny little detail.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
But I feel like that, she's one thing I do love about her, and as I've come to know the two of you, she doesn't quit. She keeps trying. She has a her foot is naturally put to the pedal to the metal. She keeps trying. She keeps achieving. She isn't complacent. I like that about her. She thinks ahead. She's like boom, 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 boom. Got mom and dad both worked into that equation. Okay, so I'm and like so much with real estate, I don't think she's supposed to buy another house this year, but like wait another 9 months, 10 months. Okay, also to be open to this other baby showing up, this other child.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
All right.
That's
So
awesome.
all right. Well, I really appreciate you sharing those things with me, and I will
Thank
get
you. Thank
promptly
you. That was
back in the
great.
mail
That was great.
ASAP. ASAP.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I got the
Yeah, that
well.
was fun.
Thank you. And also too, I love seeing Vincent showing up again for you. He's um oh, also what I call him multi-talented. Did he have a couple of different careers that he did?
He had a couple of different careers, but I wouldn't necessarily call it talent.
Vincent, you're making me choke. No, I'm kidding. I'm messing. But
No, that's okay.
I got the sense that like he had like he did a couple of jobs. He was trying to figure out what made him happiest. What made him happiest. So I think he was focused on that. He said he wasn't terribly talented, but he says I tried different things. I tried different jobs. That's how he presents himself. Oh, what else? Would he like make a big deal about being I'm physically strong still? Look at me. I've got biceps. Would he?
Yeah, he was actually a pretty strong man for his size and
Yeah,
his
because he's doing this
appearance.
kind of
He was
stuff.
very strong, yes. And back in those days, him and his brothers and stuff like that, yeah, they
I
always
just love this. Look at
about
me.
that.
Look at those guns. But with brothers too, you want to let them know that you're in the house and then
Oh, he was, yeah, he was very strong.
all right. Is there someone like I feel like a woman's name begins with an R, Romina or Rowena? It's like a musical sounding R name. I'm not Rowena, think about it. I don't know where that's coming from for me, but I'm hearing lady with I had curly long reddish hair, Rochella. I mean, our name, long, beautiful, kind of auburny looking hair. I passed fairly young. If there was a woman in your family that passed at a younger age, our name, beautiful red hair, reddish, dark brown, red kind of thing.
Not sure who that would have been.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that.
All right, that's all right. Well, I'd like to think that if someone has questions about how they develop their ability. By the way, you guys, thank you for being open and reaching into the dresser and sharing something beautiful. I will take good care of those and get them back to you.
Thank you so much.
So thank you, Mark. I did want to mention, and I know you've got the cough going on. It's we can break and come back for questions. That's usually how we do it. The demonstration was excellent, but I don't want to. I want to give people a great opportunity to ask questions and do that. And I know you got the cough, so if you need a break for that, just let us know.
Well, you'll know when I know. All right.
We usually break about 7:20, 8. What is it? 8:25. Yeah.
All right. Well, I can keep going. I mean, I'm feeling okay at the moment. The other thing too, since I don't have objects from other people, but if someone has quick questions that they want me to look at, I mean, I've done radio shows too, where people can say, "Hey, should I take this job? What does so-and-so mean to me?" But I'd like to focus, if I could, initially on questions related to psychometry, or if someone has a general idea. Go ahead.
I do have a question.
Okay.
So, and it may be, it's not obvious because there's obvious depth, but how have you applied the psychometry in either, well, obviously you talked a little bit in your life, but is there some other ways that you could share with us that psychometry we could use if we were to develop that?
Sure. If you wanted to, sometimes you can learn things about, all right, I don't want to call it spying, and it really isn't, but you can hold something that belongs to someone and see a little bit about where they are, what they do, what their life is like. If you feel like a good friend or a spouse is not being forthcoming about like, everything's fine. Really? Can I hold your ring? And then you get a sense you're really stressed out about work, or you know what you'll find is that holding an object can be a confirming experience. It's like you say everything is good, but I get the sense that you're really worried about job review, that you're getting something that's coming up, or that sales are down and that everyone is scrambling. Or, it's like, I'm getting this thing, on a positive side, it's like, does this person really love me? Is this relationship going anywhere? Sometimes if you hold something of theirs and you try to be, I also want to use the word dispassionate, and to me, what I mean by being dispassionate is don't allow your personal feelings or your affection. If you can find a way to some place of being dispassionate, you can set aside wants, needs, desires, and listen to what spirit has to say. So you can use that to get a sense of like, what is this person's relationship really like for me? Again, too, is if you walk into a place, I mean, psychometry, we're talking about, excuse me, pardon me, holding objects. But, I put my hands on walls. It's like, I want to see how this feels. How does this place feel to me? So if you're wondering, is this a good house for me? Does this building feel like a good place? Is this a good car? Pay attention to how you feel when you touch. I'm going to buy that new 2024 Magic Machine, with all those 20-inch tires and 400 horsepower. Put your hands on it and see if you can get to a place of dispassion and clarity, and see what if it really does agree with you.
So in what you just described, is there? I noticed that as you were reading the objects, you were closing your eyes. So that seemed to be a common thing, which would to shut off maybe some visual stimulus. But is there other techniques of breathing to get to that dispassionate state?
Yes, you know what? I didn't do it tonight. Maybe it's just habit, but I like it before I do a reading. Usually, if I'm doing even if I'm out talking, I'll turn away from someone from the audience, take a moment to kind of get my clarity back. And to me, it's about being present. It's about not being worried. It's not being about anything except, what do I hear when I hold this? What do I hear when I touch this? What do I feel? And so to get to that place, you've got to not worry about, where did I park the car? Have you seen, where's my phone? What was that buzz? Anything you can do to take away minute distractions. And to me, the best way to do that, I actually meditated before we talked tonight, just because it gets me in a place of where I'm relaxed, I'm clear, I'm present. I'm not thinking about what I have to wake up to do tomorrow and what I'm going to do later. It's about being here in this moment. So everything you can do to be here in this moment. So even if you're going to someone's home or you're at home and you're holding something, don't be any other time or any other place when you're attempting to hear what you hear. That help? I just lost you.
Yes, that was an excellent explanation. Are there any other techniques that you can share with the group that might be beneficial?
Sure. Again, psychometry is something that it helped. I've gotten, again, I'm very thankful that Vincent and Eileen were able to provide some validation. But in any way, when you're doing the work, I mean, I'm not the old war horse at all, although I sound like one. I sound like a war horse with a hoof and mouth. But what I would suggest is that learning to hear the difference between, it's such a very simple thing. Give what you get, even if it doesn't make sense to you. If you're hearing, this was owned by this piece was worn by a member of the Hells Angels, big hair, bald, angry man. It's like, I didn't get that. No offense to anybody's sweet mom, but I mean, just the idea that you don't know. Sometimes you might pick up a previous owner, or one of the things. Oh, what I would say too is really useful. We got a little bit of that tonight, but I really like not knowing who owns something. It's like the ultimate test. So if you have an opportunity, let's say you have a couple friends over, and you say, bring something. Don't pay attention, avert your eyes when those people put them on the table, because that can be misleading. Don't go in with an expectation that, this is this is from a little girl, therefore now I'm going to be looking at little girl issues. A good example is that I got this little tiny bracelet, but I had to really work at this. It was like a little string bracelet, and this big burly guy brought it up to the table, and he was so unusually big, large, and like, all right, I'm just gonna, and I blurted out, you know what? I see little girls playing softball with this. You don't look like a little girl playing softball. This is my daughter. She played softball. She does play softball. She was playing softball yesterday, because I'm seeing a little girl hit a really, and then it's like I'm just playing an old movie that just occurred. And so don't get hung up on who brings something to you, because it can be wrong. Also, too, the person that you're reading may adamantly not want to hear it. I held this ring from a guy that was, it wasn't, I wouldn't call it a ring so much as a napkin holder. It was so darn big and burly looking, but I picked up the ring and said, oh God, whoever owns this, you should go, please get yourself a checkup. I feel like that there's a significant health issue coming to you and that it feels like it's heart related. I would say that please don't underestimate the seriousness of this. And this guy's like, I'm fine, grabs the ring, he's got a meat hook of a hand. And then I heard then I went on more about his health issues, not knowing who it belonged to. And then I heard like a week later, this guy was at death's door in the hospital. And so the people that you give the messages, and I also try to, let me couch this. I try to present information in a way that it can be used. I'm not trying to scare someone. I'm not trying to make someone, do something, unless Spirit is telling me to say, give the info, like a cancer diagnosis that can just scare someone. And I also reserve, this is a really good thing to remember. Anyone that's learning to use their ability, reserve the right to be wrong. Sometimes I guarantee you will be wrong. I know I'm wrong sometimes, but if you kind of say, okay, I admit the fact that I'm going to be wrong. Maybe I'm the only one, or one of it's something that helped me. I'm going to get over the idea that I have to be right 99.9%. I have a pretty good batting average, but if I worry about it and I worry about a misstep, you're as good as dead. It's like playing conservative all the time. If you play conservative, you're not listening. You're not, and so give what you get out of the way. And even if it doesn't initially make sense, it's really okay. And even if the person that your sitter is saying, no, that doesn't make sense, it's like, okay, well, make a note of it. And maybe I'll hear from you. And that happens. They're saying, yeah, that turns out you were right. That did occur. And they really want to talk to you. Anyway, so that happens. So back to the specifics. If it's not an object that you own personally, your friend, find out if it was owned by more than one person, because a previous owner's or user's energy can be, their psychic DNA can be on it too. How it was used, their DNA could be coloring the images you get. So, gosh, pardon me. So if that's, I would just be able to, and even if, and here's the other side of it. If you don't know, the other person doesn't know, ask them, can you look into this? I don't know who owned it, but this is what I'm getting from it. This is how I feel about it. And so I would encourage you to take a look at that piece, see how it, what's the story. And if you can't find a story, then you may just have to say, well, I think it's a lovely piece. It feels like if there was something concerning about an object and you wanted to bless it, put it in holy water, surround it in white light, put it in salt. People I know will also cleanse an object by putting it in a cold place in the fridge, the freezer. There are a number of, depending on your spiritual perspective, you can use a number of methods to neutralize the energy in something and make it not so problematic. So those are some other things to consider.
Hey, Mark, I just sent you a text. I'd like to give you the opportunity, if you could, to kind of wrap it up, and then we'll take a short break. Can I request that?
Of course. And again, I didn't want to cancel tonight. I'm having too much fun with you guys. And this is like, you don't know when you're going to run into something in the dark. And that's what this is like a little bit. So, but we'll take a break. I will look for you guys. And when you come back, if someone wants me to look at a specific idea.
I want to thank our speaker tonight, Mark, for being here. That was an excellent presentation. Great question and answer. And just thank you so much. Thanks, Vincent and Eileen. Eileen is our speaker coordinator for the group, and she always does a fantastic job. All right. Well, again, thank you, Mark. Everybody, let's give him a hand. Thanks everybody for being here, because this
better,
is
Mark. I hope this cough goes away real soon. I know how that
Well,
is.
it's actually better than it was, believe it or not. So
Yeah. Well, hopefully it continues to get
Say hello to
better.
your wife for us.
I will, Vince. All right.
All right.
Great
I
seeing
think
Everybody.
one thing I
Thanks,
think
everyone.
people know
Thanks,
about
Mark.
Smith, the runs that he does not run on roads or streets. He does trail runs, Grandfather Mountain and stuff like that.
Wow.
Smith is doing these really rough, so if you
And Smith,
11
when
hours,
did you
think, oh,
start?
well,
You've only started running, right? I mean, you like in your
10 years ago. 10
How
years
many?
ago.
yeah.
2 years
10.
ago?
10.
10. But still, so you were what, in your 40s?
Well, and
Early
at one-
50s.
And
50s?
Smith, you can remind people that at one point in your life, you couldn't even walk.
Yeah, I couldn't walk. Yeah, I lost
Couldn't
the
even
use of
walk.
my legs.
Wow.
And now he's doing this. So somebody's got to
Yeah.
do it. We
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Angels are in the outfield for me.
You
That's
are
right.
definitely an inspiration. So
Thank you.
thank you,
Well, thanks,
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Love and light.
Thank you
Love
for
and light.
inviting. Not worthy.
Oh, hey,
So worthy,
Very
so
worthy.
worthy.
Good night,
Worthy.
All right. See you
Worth
next
it.
month.
Good night, John
Okay.
Boy.
Hi, everybody.
Good night, Eileen, Mary Ellen.
That's right. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Susan.